And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, it is time. The NBA postseason is on the horizon. The final playing games happening tonight as of this recording on April 18th. The first round of the playoffs starts tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, going into the evening. So it's that time of the year, Johnson, for us to make our selections on who will win each first round matchup, who will ultimately get to the respective conference finals, and of course, who will be the NBA champion at the end tail of this 2024-2025 season.
Yeah, do you want to call it the second best time of the year, or the first best being March Madness? At least for me.
March Madness is definitely the first. When you start the calendar year, it's March Madness first. I guess, yeah, this would be the second best time. Although I think WrestleMania, I would say, is probably, better time for me compared to this time. In terms of, where it starts, it's March Madness, then it's WrestleMania, then it's NBA playoffs. That makes
And then the
sense.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Unless my team's
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of the Super Bowl, Johnson, I'll make a note of it now. We'll probably talk about it again later on in the show. But next week, folks, remember, it's another annual mock draft show for us here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. So definitely tune in next week to listen to our picks for the NFL draft. But going back to this week, Johnson, yes, of course, the NBA playoffs is a very big time for the NBA itself. A lot of big matchups going into the first round of this postseason. It feels like when you look at the Eastern Conference, it feels like, the top three teams are the three teams, obviously, to be, including the top two for sure. One of those, of course, teams being the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics. But the Western Conference, to me, OKC, yes, is right now the heavy favorite in that conference, but there is a lot of room for error where you could make the case for the top seven seeds in the West. They could all make a case to be an NBA champion or at least get to the NBA Finals this season.
Yeah, and you know what I was thinking of the other day? And I don't think it's as strong, but this Western Conference reminds me a lot of the 2015 Western Conference. Now, do you want me to go take a stroll down memory lane and tell you about those
Sure.
teams, about the 2015 Western Conference? Remember, that's the year that that was Golden State's breakout year, right?
Yes.
So, obviously, you had Golden State all the way at the top, and we had no idea what they were going to be. But going into it, you had all these great teams. Listen to these teams you had, I guess, fighting in the West. You had Golden State, you had the Houston Rockets, you had the Spurs, you had the Clippers, you had the Grizzlies, Portland, New Orleans. You had all these good teams, and you know what the craziest part about all this is? It was the differential in the in the win differential for the entire season. So, like, if you took a look at this schedule, right? If you just took a look at them, you had 55 win teams as the sixth seed that year,
Right.
and now, granted, 48 wins to be an eighth seed is kind of crazy. Um, but when you take a look at that 2015 NBA playoffs with the star power they had, with the legacy, with the storylines, it's tough to top that. But I think this 2025 season, with how strong the Western Conference was, you can make an argument that, like you said, seven of these teams out of the West can win it all.
Now, Johnson, I don't know if you want to look back to where we were at the beginning of the season in terms of what teams that we picked in terms of who would make the playoffs and who wouldn't make the playoffs. I would say most of our picks were correct.
I think we
Um,
did
there
pretty
were
good.
there was obviously the Suns were the very surprising team out of the Western Conference. They missed the playoffs this season. They fired Mike Budenholzer in the process of that happening. The Sacramento Kings, another team where they missed the playoffs. Remember, they made that trade for De'Aaron Fox, turning him away to the Spurs. They missed the playoffs by not winning in their playing game, getting beat down by the Dallas Mavericks, who later tonight will be playing for that 8th seed when they take on the Memphis Grizzlies. And you look at the rest of our picks as well. The Thunder, we have correct. The Nuggets were right. The Timberwolves are right. Dallas right now is the big question mark. They might make the playoffs. We know what happened with the Luka Doncic trade as well. If
Well,
they win
we had
tonight, they
top
might
10.
make it. Yeah.
We had top 10.
Um,
So, like, that's a top 10 team. So I
let's
think
be honest. The Pelicans, we did not expect them to be the top bad.
Pelicans and the Suns. Of the big misses we had.
Yeah, the Pelicans were horrific this season. Um, I didn't give the Rockets as much credit as you did. You know, last year they just missed the playoffs. I thought they were going to make it this year around, but to their credit, they're the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. I thought the Spurs would be that team that maybe make the play in. Then Wemby got hurt, and it all kind of went downhill for them. The Eastern Conference, I would say for the most part, we did pretty good there. Outside of Philadelphia, the Sixers have a really bad season in which a lot of players, especially Joel Embiid, injured for them during the year. The Heat, if they hold on right now against Atlanta, they would be the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. That's considering the fact that they traded away Jimmy Butler during the season. And other than that, I think we did a pretty good job of making our picks and deciding who would make the playoffs this season. And now it's time for us to decide now who is going to win each respective first round matchup, who's going to win in each conference, and who will ultimately make the NBA Finals at the end of this season and try to win the title for 2025.
Yeah, kind of crazy when you think about it because I thought the Raptors would finally break through. That's the other team.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that'd be the other team, but would at least make the play and be top 10. Um, but yeah, it's been a great year so far, and want to just get into the into our predictions.
Yeah, we absolutely can. And I think let's start off. I think we'll go into the Eastern Conference first. We'll start there. The Western Conference, as I mentioned, a little bit more maybe indecisive as to where some of these matchups will go. But we'll start off the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers, a sensational year, 64 wins. No one really could have expected the Cavaliers to win that many games. Definitely expected them to make the playoffs, but not to this fashion where they are the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They will take on the 8th seed, who will either be Atlanta or Miami. As I mentioned, that game currently underway right now as we speak. Miami is up by 9 points in the third quarter. So if they do hold on, it will be Miami versus Cleveland. Irregardless of what happens in that game, Johnson, I think we're both expecting the Cavaliers to get the job done.
Now, there is a nightmare scenario, I guess, if you're a fan of Cleveland here, that Miami does win this game and they do kind of push you guys a little bit. Uh, do I see it happening? Yeah, they can push you for about 3 quarters of a game, but I expect Cleveland to win every single game. I expect them to clean sweep Miami or Atlanta, whoever wins this game, and they just move straight on. Well, maybe not. I'll give them 5 games. I'll give Miami Heat because I think they're going to win this game. I'll give Miami 1 game. So Cleveland in 5.
I'll go with Cleveland in 4. I don't see Miami. I will give them credit after trading Butler away. You would have expected them to lose one of these games, whether that was their first playing game against Chicago or this game alone. And to their credit, they're now 1 quarter away from making it as the 8th seed. But I just don't see a scenario in which they win. Maybe they get one sneak by, but I don't think I could see it happening. So give me the Cavaliers to get the full sweep.
All right, and then we have the 2 seed here. We're gonna have the 2 seed Boston Celtics versus the number 7 seed Orlando Magic. This is another team where I could see Orlando pushing Boston for 3 quarters a game and then ultimately falling in the fourth quarter. They're a young team, but just not ready yet. So I'll give them the benefit of that where they get one at home, so they avoid the sweep and get the gentleman. Boston in 5.
I will go with Boston at 5 as well. I think the biggest thing for the Celtics right now, Johnson, is the status of Jaylen Brown. He's been injured the last couple of weeks, hasn't really been really playing fully healthy, so he's not at full strength right now these last couple of games that Boston has played. But they still won 61 games. They are right now the betting favorite to win the NBA championship this season, in my opinion. I know the Thunder might be the betting favorite for a lot of sports books. I still think it is the Boston Celtics right now that should be the betting favorite in the NBA for this season. I have them to win this series at 5. I think Orlando could maybe sneak one by the Celtics, but Boston should move on with these. Then we'll move on to our beloved New York Knicks, who are the 3 seed in this year's Eastern Conference playoffs. They take on the very surprising, I think probably the most shocking team out of all the playoff teams this year, Johnson, the 6 seeded Detroit Pistons, who coming into this year had won, what was it, maybe 30 games the most the last 2 seasons alone? And now they went 44 games. Great first year for JB Bickerstaff, who was, let's face facts, he was pretty much outlasted and thrown out of Cleveland after what happened last season when they lost in the playoffs to Orlando and or not Orlando, but to Boston. And then lo and behold, he's got the Pistons in his first year in the postseason, and now they got a young, scrappy team taking out our Knicks.
Yeah, and because this is a young, scrappy team, I think that is it bad that I think this team is gonna push the Knicks to 7?
They're gonna make this tough. The Knicks never make
They're gonna
anything easy.
and because the last time I had tickets to Knicks game 7, I ended up selling those tickets to the Pacers so we could beat up. So I have game 7 tickets again, and I have a feeling that we're going 7 games. So give me Knicks to win in 7 this time.
Are you gonna go to
Versus
this game?
script here.
Are you gonna go this time?
To be decided. To be
To be
decided.
determined. Yeah.
I'm not really positive yet. Depends if no one's injured.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm gonna go with the Knicks in 6. I think this will definitely be a long-term series. Um, I am a little bit worried. Kay Cunningham, I think, has really established himself as one of those next great players in the NBA. He had a great season for Detroit this year. Definitely will be a problem. We know Isaiah Stewart and the rest of that ball club is a young, scrappy team, as I mentioned. They're going to definitely get the most out of the Knicks. The Knicks comes down to, Brunson finally is healthy, so that's a good sight. Anunoby and all of them, they're starting to get fully healthy towards the end of the season, which is good. It's just going to, come down to can they get over what has plagued them in some of these playoff series, which is, inconsistent shooting sometimes when it comes down to 3-pointers. I think that it might cost the Knicks maybe 1 or 2 games, so I'll have the Knicks going in 6 as they win this series in Detroit. What about our next series between Indiana and Milwaukee? A different site for Milwaukee, considering that they do not have Damian Lillard. Good news for him is that it seems like his blood clot issue is finally going away, so he might be able to return. Not sure if it will be in this series, but maybe even the next series if Milwaukee is able to get past Indiana and get some revenge from last season.
Same old Milwaukee. They're going to be beat up playing the Pacers. And Milwaukee, if they were fully healthy, they would 100% win this series. However, since they can miss Dame for extended time, give me the Pacers in 6. Giannis can hard carry his team for about 1 or 2 games, but he really needs some help to beat this Pacers team, which unfortunately he's not going to get unless one of these guys really step up. So I'm not going to hold my breath. I think it's going to be more interesting to see where Giannis goes next offseason after he gets eliminated in the first round here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Indiana as well. I'm gonna put them in 7 though. I think for I don't know why. I think Milwaukee will give them a test. And I think maybe at some point towards the end of the series, you maybe see Damian Lillard play a game or two, and that could help Milwaukee push this towards 7 games. They're just not the same team as they were obviously a couple years ago when they won the championship. Indiana is a very good ball club. They were 1 game back of our Knicks in the standings. They're going to be a problem once again in the NBA playoffs this season. And if I'm a Cleveland team, you're going to have a tough matchup regardless, in my opinion, in the second round. But I'll go with Indiana as well. But I'll have them in 7 games, getting the job done against the Bucks. So to round out, we both have the same picks for our first round matches for the Eastern Conference. You have Cleveland, or I should say, we have Cleveland, Boston, New York, and Indiana. Could be different though for the Western Conference. Let's start off with the Oklahoma City Thunder, the best record in the NBA with 68 wins this season. We knew they were going to make a big jump after what happened last year, Johnson. Great jump for them this year. They will take on the 8th seed, who will either be the Dallas Mavericks or the Memphis Grizzlies. Does either team change your narrative of how this series goes, or do you have the Thunder winning in convincing fashion?
No, because Memphis fired their head coach, and Dallas is lacking a fan base ever since they traded Luca. So, OKC in 5, no matter who it is. Both both our franchises are in rebuild mode in the playoffs. So, don't really see that often. But here we are, OKC in 5.
I'm gonna be right with you at OKC in 5. If it's Dallas, OKC sweeps. If it's Memphis, I think Memphis does get a game out of them, but yeah,
Chalk and, Chalk
they're
and
just
Dragon to win.
yeah, they're just not the same team. I mean, I'm not sure again what the reasoning was behind the Taylor Jenkins firing. I think it was due to a fact of him and Ja weren't, we're on the same side. But even then, like, just get through the season and then do it at the end of the year. Doing them in Denver doing this towards the end of the season was very, very peculiar because you don't really see that often in the NBA. And you even saw what happened against Golden State. They had a chance to tie the game at the end where they had an inbound pass and they got a 5-second violation. You don't see that very often in the NBA, and they got it called against them. You see it in college all the time, but definitely not in the NBA. And you can't let that happen. So that shows the inexperience sometimes of a team like Memphis who has made some playoff appearances before, but also a young assistant head coach that's making his first head coaching moves, and he's been on the job for 2 weeks, and he's potentially going to go into the playoffs against now, if they get past Dallas, the number one seeded Thunder. So good luck to them if they get past Dallas. I don't see it going any further than 5. I'm going to agree with you on that matchup. What about our next matchup? I think probably outside of the 4 and 5 matchup in the West might be the most enticing series we have. Two-seeded Rockets, who, as I mentioned, had that great jump through this season with 51 wins, the 2 seed in the West. But they now take on a very new look Golden State Warriors team that has Jimmy Butler on their side.
Give me Rockets in 7. I know Houston has 52 plus, I think 52 wins exactly. So they had a
Yes,
hell of a
52.
season.
Sorry, not 51.
Yeah, they're gonna win. They're gonna win this first round against Golden State, but Steph isn't going out lightly. Uh, they have Jimmy Butler, who's been a really big difference maker. 23-8, I believe, since he joined them midway through the season. So they're winning close to 70% of their games since Jimmy Butler joined. But I don't think they're going to have enough to stop this Rockets team. They're super talented. I've seen them play live in person. Thompson's really good. You have Sengun that's really good. Just from top to bottom, this is a talented team. So they're going to push. Golden State's going to push them, but ultimately, the Rockets are going to win in 7.
Well, we're going to have our first disagreement of the night. I'm going to go with the Warriors. I'm going to pick Golden State in 6 to win this series. I mentioned they've looked like a different team since Jimmy Butler got added to this roster. He adds another scoring dynamic to the team that they desperately needed because outside of Steph Curry, they weren't really getting many points from the rest of their collective team. So adding Butler definitely helps. You know what you have in Draymond Green and other guys off your team as well. They can provide defensive minutes when needed the most. I think the Rockets, it comes down to me is the inexperience might hurt them because we saw what happened last year with OKC. They weren't really necessarily ready for that first round matchup when they played Dallas. They weren't, at the right, the right mindset. Couldn't get necessary shots to hit when needed the most. I feel like that could be the same for the Rockets. So it might just seem like I'm a Rockets hater considering I didn't pick them at the beginning of the year. I just feel like this is a bad matchup for them in round 1 to take on a Warriors team that's been pretty much red hot ever since they got Jimmy Butler. Their season has gone from a potential barely making in to the playoff, the play-in team-wise, to making it into the play-in, but doing it in convincing fashion. I got Golden State in 6 to pull off, you want to call it, a first-round upset. There always is one that happens in the NBA playoffs, in my opinion. There is at least one upset you get in the first round, so that'll be Golden State for me. What about the
Oh,
Lakers and the Timberwolves?
we're getting a full chalk tournament here. Surprise, surprise. Give me Lakers
Happened
in
in
6
March.
right here. Yeah. Minnesota is a talented team. Julius Randle had that comment about the Knicks. He really never played for something, even though he had a chance to go to the Eastern Conference
Uh,
Finals and he shot 3 for 17. But hey, he was injured. He was injured. That's what I'm going to tell myself. And he really was injured because he got surgery right after that. But
yeah.
besides those comments that were pretty dumb, the Lakers have looked like a different team. Halfway through the trade deadline, especially since getting Luka. I know Luka is getting a lot of heat, but Lakers in 6 right here.
I'm not going to pull the Shannon Sharp meme, and I'm not going to say Lakers in 5 because it's just kind of disrespectful to the Nuggets. I'm looking forward to the next series. It's disrespectful towards this Timberwolves team because listen, they made that trade last year with Karl-Anthony Towns. I got rid of him. There's still a very good roster that they have here that they're going into the playoffs with. You mentioned Randall that they brought in that trade. We know what the Anthony Edwards is, and come playoff time, he's been either hot or he's either cold. So he'll be a big deciding factor for them come playoff time. I think they have the necessary pieces to push the Lakers to a long series because the Lakers are kind of in the same boat. It's where, we've seen when the Lakers are at their best, they are probably a top 5 team in the NBA. But when they are missing shots, like if Luka has an off night and LeBron isn't as doing as great, then the Lakers aren't looking as hot, and they're a team that can be beaten. I think you'll see a back and forth series between the two. I think it goes down to 7, but I will take the Lakers in Game 7 at home to get the job done and move on into the second round, where they would take on the winner, or excuse me, they would take on Golden State, in my opinion, which is for one of our friends a very absolute nightmare scenario for him because he likes both of those teams. But let's talk about the final series of the first round, Johnson. I think the probably the closest matchup we have in the first round that really might be tough for either one of us to pick. Denver, the 4 seed, taking on the 5 seeded Los Angeles Clippers.
Denver in 7, and this is going to be the game that triggers the LA Clippers full rebuild. I'm talking Kawhi is gone. Everyone is gone from that Clippers team, and Denver is going to go into the next round to take on Oklahoma City. The matchup we all want between the real MVP, Nikola Jokic, and the fraud MVP in SGA.
The fraud. I know.
Listen, SGA had a great season, but if it wasn't for voter fatigue, Nicole would win this. I have never seen, and again, none of these awards are out.
60-point triple-double a couple weeks ago.
Nikola Jokic this season, it's never been done.
Though, but yeah.
If he almost 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists a game on 57, 41, 80% from the line, his PER was 32.
Yeah.
It is one of the most efficient seasons in NBA history. And he's not going to win the MVP because SGA averages 30. But hey, Joel MVP, listen, Jokic should be a 5-time MVP. MB took one MVP from him. He gets a pity MVP. And SGA is a deserving MVP. So I'm not going to say it's a pity one, but it's not the right winner. So
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, just because SGA averaged 32 points, and it's not his season isn't even close. I know he has 60 wins, whatever, but it should be Jokic. Anyway, I'm just bitter.
I know.
Please give me your pick.
It's funny because remember at the beginning of the season, I thought the Clippers were not going to be a good team. I thought they were going to be kind of injured, and it was going to. You know what I thought the Clippers were going to be? I thought they were going to be what the Philadelphia 76ers were this season. Injury riddled, not able to get their team back in time for games, and them having to say, you know what, let's just push towards the end of this season and go to next year. They are exactly what Philadelphia was this year for me. So that's where I expected the Clippers to be. That's what the Sixers were, and sure enough, the Clippers had themselves a nice season. And these two teams have the same exact record. I mean, both of them 50 and 32. Could have easily been the 3 seed had not been a tiebreaker with the Lakers winning that tiebreaker. So they unfortunately got the bad end of the beat, even though it's not an easy matchup for the Lakers against Minnesota, as we've already mentioned. When it comes down to this, I think I'm going to go back to where we talked about. It comes down to this. Ivica Zubac has looked great for the Clippers the last couple weeks. Do we trust him against Jokic is the problem. I'm not necessarily certain that he's going to be able to do what he's been doing the last couple weeks against Nikola Jokic. But at the other end of it, it's, Harden has added a nice factor to this Clippers team. Kawhi is finally healthy enough to where they look like a great threat in the West. And Norman Powell's had a sensational season. He needs to be commended for what he did for the Clippers this year, averaging over 20 points a game.
He got screwed this year. He should have been an All-Star.
Yeah, 100%. Not even a question.
He got screwed out of an All-Star game this year. And Norman Powell had a fantastic season. And I'm excited. He should be one of the... And what's crazy, too? You assume, he's this young, piece. He's 30 years old.
Yeah, I know. He's still got some years.
So this has been one of the greatest, I guess, late season breakout seasons of all time. He's an undersized shooting guard that just averaged 22 points a game on an NBA playoff team.
Yeah.
So good for him.
I like I said, I think this is the toughest series for me to pick out of all of them. I'm going to go with the Clippers. I'm just going to go with the Clippers, and I'll pick them in... I think I go 7 as well. I think I'm with you on that game at least. I
You
think
know,
it. I just think they're so evenly kind of matched. It comes down to, like I mentioned, if Zubac does decent enough against Jokic and contains him for the most part, then they really the next closest player you have to worry about is Jamal Murray because we know what he's done in the postseason. And if you're telling me, listen, if we contain Jokic to a point where yes, he's going to have a monster night, but if no one outside of Jokic does work, all we need is a big night from Harden, realistically, and you're going to be fine enough to win these games. There's no, Paul George pandemic piece crap anymore with this team. They've gotten all, in my opinion, they've gotten all the bad, juju off of this team, and I think that will help them in this matchup with Denver. So I'll go with the Clippers in 7 to win the series.
and you know what I love about this Clippers team? It's kind of like the island of misfit toys here.
Yes,
We mentioned Norman Powell, but there's other cast-offs here that really never had a fair shot in the NBA. Like Derek Jones Jr., he's been in the league for almost 10 years now,
he was.
mainly in the G League.
Remember what he did last year for Dallas in the playoffs? He was great for the
Yeah,
Mavericks.
he was. And, Dallas set him aside. So here he is on the Clippers now. He's even doing even better. Then you have a guy like Amir Coffey, who's been with the Clippers for a couple years now. Would he find this role on another team? I'm really not sure.
Probably not.
Zubac is a guy that the Lakers just threw away years ago. And he's turned into this all-star light center. So they've had a
Bogdanovich
fantastic
has been
season.
fine for them as well.
Yeah. And James Harden, another castaway, even though he's a perennial all star, he's doing the NBA rainbow routine towards the end of his year,
Yeah,
end
I
of his
know.
NBA career. He's doing the shock route right now. But hey, he bounced back and he's an all star for the first time in a couple of years. So,
Remember, this is the Russell Westbrook matchup. Two of his current and former team in this series.
yes, sir.
So should be an interesting one to match up with. We'll see how that one goes. So that is our first round matchups. To recap, we both have the Thunder to move on. You have the Rockets. I have the Warriors. We both have the Lakers to move on. I have the Clippers, and you have the Nuggets. So pretty similar picks outside of two series for the both of us. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty, Johnson. Who is going to be the respective conference winners for each conference? And before I ask you, I'm going to go over some of the odds for these conferences. The Celtics have the best odds in the Eastern Conference to come out of the East, followed by Cleveland and New York. That's to be expected with the top three seeds. Inside of the Western Conference, let me get those odds in the moment. If you want, you can make your pick for the Eastern Conference while I find the
It's
Western
Cleveland.
Conference odds.
It's Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, unless they have a horrific choke job during the playoffs, it's going to be Cleveland.
I got Boston. I got Boston.
I don't see Boston going that far because I think Jalen Brown's too banged up. I don't think he's going to be 100%. He's probably needs some sort of off-season surgery, which he's putting off for the playoffs because that's a true warrior mentality right there. Uh, but I think I don't think that's going to really hinder them. So give me Cleveland. If Jalen
Obviously,
Brown's 100% healthy, I'd give you Boston, but give me Cleveland.
obviously, for the both of us, we're hoping it's the Knicks, but they
Yeah, I'm
got
not going to hold my breath.
they got to beat a top contending team for us to even have any faith. It was a rough year against the top three of the NBA. Now, the Western Conference, let's look at the odds for them. We have the Thunder right now with the best odds in the West. That's to be expected with the best record in the NBA. They're followed by the Lakers, the Warriors, the Clippers, and then the Nuggets to round out the top five, odds wise, for the Western Conference. Who do you have taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals?
Got to be OKC. Almost 70 wins. Best team. They have 50 plus. They have 55 double-digit wins.
Yeah,
That's more than any other team besides the Celtics has wins, period. So, it's got to be OKC.
and remember, Johnson, they have, a lot more draft picks coming up still. They are very young. This is the start of what's going to be a potential dynasty in the next couple of years and maybe even decade for this team.
Yeah, but could be a team that potentially gets Cooper Flag if I want to trade for him, but that's not going to happen.
Do they have a Sixers pick, but it's protected this year?
Yes.
I want to look up there. I'm curious because I know they have insane draft picks coming off for multiple different trades. They have a Miami first this year, which is protected, a Houston or Clippers swap rights pick, the Sixers pick that's protected 1-6, the Jazz pick that's protected 1-10, and then those probably get all protected. And then next year in 2026, they're gonna have all these first round picks that are
Well,
unprotected.
they could really get that Sixers pick. They're not a lock.
The Sixers, they very much well could. Imagine they got Cooper Flag. I think they don't even need Cooper Flag. Oh God. Um, I could go with everyone's worst nightmare, in my opinion, which is probably Boston and LA. You know, I don't think it. The Lakers have been good. Maybe you could make the case that they're kind of somewhat similar to Dallas in the sense where you have that two-headed monster at the top, and then those role players outside will have to step up in different ways to make sure that you get to the finals. Their defense still scares me to a sense, so I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it done. I think I'm with you on OKC. I think it's. I think they're just too good not to pick them right, like pick against them. Like I think it's OKC's conference to lose, in my opinion. The team that's going to give them the toughest test, I think it goes by the odds makers. I think it's the Clipper. It's either the Lakers or I would make the case for Denver. And I know I picked against Denver in the first round, but if Denver gets past the Clippers, Denver could definitely give OKC a run for their money in the second round of that matchup. So
Yeah, listen, it's the closest Western Conference we had in 10 years.
yeah, so I'm gonna go with Boston OKC as my NBA Finals. Who do you have winning the championship?
OKC. I think it's OKC by a mile.
I think for the sake of us, I won't pick OKC just to make sure that we don't have him full mush. Because I think let's face facts. If Cleveland, if it's your NBA Finals, I don't think we necessarily have any beef with either team winning. It would be great for either city because Cleveland has only gotten that one championship, that being the LeBron led one in what was that 2016. And OKC, obviously, they have never gotten a championship. They moved.
I don't want Cleveland already has one too recently. Give me OKC. That's
But no, but what I'm saying is, if it was Boston, right, you would be pissed off if Boston won the title.
Yes,
Because Boston has had just won last year. The rest of their sports teams have gotten championships. You would feel okay, especially OKC. You would feel fine with OKC winning the title, especially for our guy Isaiah Hardenstein. I'm hoping he can get a championship. I'm still,
I'm a little bitter about that. But
I'm bitter that he.
left.
I'm bitter that he left, but I still want my guy to succeed. I did appreciate his short time with the Knicks. I'm just gonna go for the absolute nightmare scenario. I'm just gonna pick Boston to go back to back. I don't want it to happen. I'm hoping. I'm at the point where most of the time where I pick on this show in terms of picking, I'm just doing it for the exact thing I don't want to happen. That way, if it does happen, then I might look good at the end of it. But if it doesn't happen, then I feel very, very content with myself because the team that I don't like the most is out of the playoffs or does not win the championship. So just give me Boston to win. No, no hard feelings, Boston. But we know my dislike towards your sports teams. It goes a very long way from my childhood days with the Yankees and Red Sox. So give me the Celtics to repeat as the NBA champions this upcoming NBA postseason that starts, as I mentioned, tomorrow on multiple networks. I'm not sure where those games are going to be broadcasted. I do have an update from the 8th seed game in the NBA Eastern Conference. That game is now Ty Johnson with 7:30 to go. So, or LA just took the lead now, as I said that. So, could be a different change. And we thought Miami was going to be able to get it done. Atlanta has made a run. So, it could be the Hawks moving on to tomorrow or to Sunday to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll find out what happens in that series. Any final thoughts before we wrap this one up here tonight?
Go Knicks.
I could not have said any better. Go Knicks. Hopefully get past Detroit, and then we'll see what happens from there on. Most likely we'll be facing Boston, which might be a rough series for us, but we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The NBA playoffs are just around the corner. The final playing games are wrapping up here tonight on April 18th. Tomorrow, April 19th, the first round of the NBA postseason begins. We will see who will be moving on into each first round matchup of the NBA playoffs going into round number 2. When that does happen, the first round is over. Johnson and I will be back on the podcast, I should say, to break down those first round matchups and, of course, preview the second round matchups as well. But as I mentioned earlier on as well, next week on the show, All Gas No Break Sports Show, mock draft for the NFL draft upcoming this Thursday will be a great show this upcoming week. make sure to tune on in to see who will be making our picks for each respective team in the NFL. This has been Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by my co-host Andrew Johnson for the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Passover and happy Easter to everyone, all of our listeners on the show.